Hey guys, it's Friday and I'm back getting over bronchitis, so my voice is a little scratchy. So thanks for your patience with me. And we are going to dig into the book of Genesis this week. I feel like we've done this already, but we haven't. A ton of people requested Genesis for this week. I didn't get a very specific chapter, but let's just do a general overview of the book of Genesis. I'll outline one chapter for you and then give you some resources I have for further study and give you some ideas on how to take notes on the book of Genesis. So Genesis is a lot to cover. It's a long book. I believe it's 50 chapters. Let's look. 50 chapters. Ooh, I remembered. 50 chapters, and the bulk of the New Testament or the Old Testament history is in this book. Of course, you get into the historical books of when the Promised Land came about and all that comes in Joshua and through the Kings. But before Moses, there was the account of the patriarchs, and the patriarchs are just the men, the big men of our faith that started out this whole world that we build all of our faith on, our forefathers of Christianity, if you will. So we've got Adam, we've got Cain and Abel, we've got Seth, we've got Noah. Who else have you heard of in Genesis? Abraham, also known as Abram, his son Isaac, his son Jacob, who was renamed Israel, and his son Judah, who eventually that leads into the lineage of Christ. Now, every single one of these men did something terribly wrong, but they also did some things right. So every single one of their stories are a story of humanity, of being human, of sinning against God and God's love for his people and wanting to restore them. I'm not going to get into everybody's story because Genesis, you could study it for an entire year. But I'm going to give you an overview real quick of where I'm going to get some of my information from and the resources I have in my shop. If you already have these would be great to reference if you're taking notes in Genesis. Obviously, I've got my timelines I made into a little book. They're just digital printables. You can grab those, get the whole thing, or just get book by book or whatever you're studying. And so right now I've got this Genesis one you can look at. So here's a good thing to outline for chapter 1, creation, the days of creation. Here's chapter, I believe, 6, when we're talking about Noah and the flood. Here's when you get to the genealogy chapter. Here's all the people that they list out. And later in Genesis, when we get to Jacob and the 12 tribes, the future 12 tribes of Israel, here's their genealogy, as well as an overview of the story of Joseph and then the land allotments that these tribes will have eventually. So there's a ton to unpack in here just to write in your Bible throughout the stories that are in there. I also have released a new product called Bible Maps, and that's something that has some of the stuff from the timelines, but it's more in depth. And this is one of the Bible maps from that book or from that collection. This is basically talking about Abraham or Abram's migration, his journey when God said, leave your people and go. It's talking about the places that he went, and I've mapped those out. This is like modern day Middle East over here. Here's Egypt down here. This right here is the Dead Sea. If you zoom in, that little river is the Jordan River. Up above that is the Sea of Galilee. So you'll remember all that from Jesus's life. And then I've got a couple things on here, like the possible place, resting place of Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat. So this is a great tool to reference when you're reading something in the Bible and it's referencing a place, so you can relate to it. And then another reference that I have that you could use is I've got a genealogy that it goes from Adam to Jesus. And then I have also marked where I find this information. So some of it's repeated, like this section right here was talked about in Chronicles, as well as Luke and the book of Genesis. So if you look on here, you could see all the way from Adam to Judah, they talk about this is what's talked about in the book of Genesis. So I hope you kind of make sense of what's going on over there, and I hope that these resources are helpful for you. So let's dig into just the beginning, Genesis chapter 1. So grab your highlighters, something to write with, a journaling Bible, or if you've got something like a notebook if you don't want to write directly in this. So here we go. I'm going to get some different colors. We have 7 days of the week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no. Maybe I'll do God rested in not a color because he didn't create anything on that day. So I've got my 6 different colors. If you've got 7, that'd be great because we're going to talk about creation. And what I'm going to do is basically just color code our days. So here we go. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Verse 3 says, God said, let there be light. There was light. God saw the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning the first day. So I'm just going to pick a random color, and I'm going to do this to show this is everything that happened on day 1. And then I'm going to highlight some things in there that happened on that day. He created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. The Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. He said, let there be light. So he made light. He made darkness, or he had the darkness, but he separated it. So night and day. So I'm going to write over here. There's a lot of things going on, but I'm just going to write the very basics. Day 1, night, day, light, dark. And then do some kind of little doodle that shows that. Okay, day 2, we're going to pick a different color. Any color will do. So I've got verse 6. God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, there was the morning, the second day. So over here, I'm going to highlight that section as day 2. Highlight that he did sky, because he separated the water from the water. So then I'll write sky and water. Day 3 and verse 9, God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place. Let dry ground appear. And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered water he called seas. And God saw it was good. Verse 11, he keeps going. God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kind. And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, trees bearing fruit with seeds in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. There was evening, there was morning, the third day. So over here, day 3. Okay, dry ground called land, gathered waters into seas, and vegetation. So I'm going to write those over here. Land. Oh, he already made the water, but he turned it into seas. And then vegetation. So I'm going to do my doodles, do a little plant, and then I'm going to draw the earth separated into land and seas, like that. New color, day 4, verse 14. God said, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years, and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on earth. And it was so. God made 2 great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. It's almost like he invented time right here. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw it was good. And there was evening, there was morning, the fourth day. So, new color, fourth day. Day 4, lights in the sky. Okay, let's see. It doesn't say sun and moon. It just says 2 great lights to govern the day and the night. And he made the stars. So I'm going to write sun, moon, and stars. Okay, day 5. What do we got next? Blue. How about blue? Verse 20, and God said, let the water teem with living creatures, let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teemed and that moves about in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas and let the birds increase on the earth. And there was evening, there was morning, the 5th day. Now this might seem silly and like childish to even do this, but this is where the Bible starts. This is the basis of the reason we're here. This is how we were created. And this also is the perfect passage to organize your thoughts and find systems to take these notes. So it's already laid it out for you. You're just color coding it, organizing it. And the reason we're doing this is not to just pretend like we're in Sunday school again. It's to retain what we're learning. So if we're teaching people about things in the Bible, we want to know our basic facts. Otherwise, that looks like we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to more heavy subject matters. So I think it's really important to have that base biblical literacy, which just means you understand the story of the Bible, and creation is the very first story. And I encourage you guys to kind of memorize this so that you can visualize it better. You can kind of relate to it more. You can see when you walk outside, God intentionally made the vegetation on the day he did, and these are the types of plants that he did, and then look into the science that you learn as a kid. This is why we have plants. This is how they're helpful to us. It's so complex yet simple at the same time, and it just gives us such an attitude of gratitude and an awareness of our Creator. There's verses in Psalms, I believe, that are saying, the earth it groans, and the creation wants to get back to what it was originally, and that God is evident in creation. There's just so much visual representation of the creation all throughout the Bible, especially in the Psalms, that God has said, this is actual proof that I am alive and with you and care about you. And then we talk about Jesus and how he cares about the birds. Don't I take care of the birds? Don't I clothe the flowers in beauty? How much more do I care about you? So this is very important for us to understand, because it's all tied throughout the Bible in these analogies and these relationships, and the learning who God is, the beauty of God, the complexity of God. So don't skip these little Sunday school type lessons. They're very important. I just want you to see them through adult eyes instead of child eyes, where you're actually growing spiritually as you're learning this stuff. You're looking at these things through a new lens. Okay, so that's my soapbox. Here we go. Living creatures in the water and birds in the sky. Sea creatures and birds. So we've got my little simple doodle, and then my sea creature. You could do a little fish. I'm gonna do a 5-legged octopus. Okay, verse 24. I'm going to have to go to the next page, but you just do your thing. God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kind, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, the wild animals, each according to its kind. And it was so. So here we go on. I'm going to do this on the next page. Well, yeah, let me do it on the next page. Living creatures on the land. This is 6, but I'm going to write the info on this side. Okay. Livestock according to their kind, all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. God saw it was good, and then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So verse 27, God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. So we've got the livestock and man. The 6th day ends in chapter 1. God saw all he had made. It was very good. There was evening, there was morning, the 6th day. Okay, so this is kind of his blessing on man. Here's your job. You're going to, I give you every seed-bearing plant, every tree with fruit and seed, to the beasts of the ground, everything that has life in it, I give you it. So he's being fruitful, increase in number, fill the earth, subdue it, rule over the fish and sea. So he's giving man authority over all of his creation, which is quite a gift. Okay, so day 6, he creates man and land animals. So you know how I am with drawing people. I don't like it. So here's my stick figure guy. And my land animals, we could do my little silly lion. Whatever creature you want. Yes, Michelle, reteaching ourselves God's word. That's exactly what my kind of mission is over here, is to bring that joy back into studying it through the eyes of a child, but realizing we're not children anymore, and we need to be studying this as looking for growth. But a lot of us think that if we're going back to this basic stuff, that we're not really growing, we're just relearning. But if we never really learned it in the first place, then we have no foundation to build on. I have been raised in the church my whole life, and I could tell you a lot of the stories, but I had no idea how they related together. And now that I understand the chronological order of the Bible and how they relate together, it's like I see God in so many different ways that I never saw him. I only saw him as a God of creation. He was limited to that story. I didn't see him in Psalms. I didn't see him in relating this to Jesus and his parables and all those things. So that's what I'm talking about in reteaching yourself God's word, is growing in that knowledge. Just like we teach kids math facts, you're going to teach kids numbers one year, then you're going to teach them how to count by different numbers, and then you're going to teach them how to add numbers, and later you'll teach them how to multiply. This is what I'm talking about, is that basic concept of taking that same concept of the math problem, but you're making it more advanced as you grow older. Or Bible, you're making it more advanced as you grow older. And if you're still repeating the same things over and over and over, are we really growing? Therefore, can we become influential people to disciple those around us, to raise our kids in confidence of what the scriptures are saying? So I'm trying to give you the tools and permission to go back to the basics and not overcomplicate it, but seek God on every page, and he will reveal himself to you. And it is such a joy for me to do this, and not a chore like it used to be, because I'm seeing it through a totally different lens. So I hope you see that as well. Chapter 2, the very beginning of it, talks about the 7th day. God finished the work he'd been doing, and he rested. So I'm going to do just the same color again, because I don't have another color. God rested. And if God rests, how much more should we rest? So I think I myself get into this habit of working on the weekends, whether it's just house stuff or bills or trying to grocery shop or whatever. But I'm really having to get disciplined about taking that day of rest because it serves me for the entire week. So on my site, I talk a lot about self-care. I talk about spiritual growth. I think they're all so connected. So this is another example of self-care in the Bible. God rested himself. He rested on the seventh day. So make sure you are putting in time for you to rest so that you are being the best you can be. Okay, so let's see, where are we at? We're about 20 minutes in, so let's keep going a little bit. Adam and Eve we've got over here. Then we have the fall. I'm not going to outline all of this. I'm going to give you a little bit of ideas. Then Cain and Abel, story of the first murder. And then Adam to Noah. This is a great section to outline. Basically, what I would do is just go through every single name you have. So we've got Adam, then he had Seth, then Seth had Enosh, then Enosh had Kenan. See, there's so much text in here, but when I do this, I see, okay, Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, and then I keep going. So we've got, when Kenan had lived, in verse 12, he became the father of Mahalalel. I don't know why I'm trying to pronounce these. And then he became the father of Jared. Jared became the father of Enoch. Enoch became the father of Methuselah. Methuselah became the father of Lamech. Lamech became the father of Noah. And then Noah became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And it stops there because then it's going to go into the story of Noah. So this is another great thing you can outline. Let's just do it on the side real quick. From Adam to Noah. Okay, let me see if you can see this. So all I'm going to do is plug in these guys. So I've got Adam, I've got Seth, I've got Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, then Lamech. And then he had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth. That doesn't sound right, but... Okay, so this is basically the lineage, and I'm just going to make like a quick little genealogy on the side. So now, when I come back to this, when I'm studying, I don't have to read all this over again. I can just do it right here because I've got the notes. I am going to double check that I did that right with all this research I did the other day on my genealogies. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah goes to Shem. And Shem actually leads to the lineage of Christ. His line does. Just a side note, you won't see that in here, but that's what happens. Okay, so I've got to add some more doodles, you know it. I'm going to do a family tree because that's fun for me. Okay, wickedness in the world. So then we talk about how God destroys the world with a flood. You can read about that. There's a lot to draw and outline in this story as well. Then he has a covenant with Noah, which is the rainbow. And then we get to more genealogy in end of chapter 9 and going into chapter 10. We have more detailed genealogy, and it says this is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, and then it says the sons of each one of those. So you can dig into some major outlining right here. Over here, you've already seen that I've got a couple highlight things there. These are all the names I'm trying to track. Abraham, we haven't even talked about. So Abraham is a descendant of Shem. Shem was a descendant of Adam. So this is showing how they're all connected. And then we've got the call of Abraham here. So it looks like Kaylee has a question. It says, should you study books or things in the Bible you haven't read? Basically, what I'm doing with this Bible journaling is we're going all over the place. So we're going wherever we want. So I'm not doing a chronological study with the Bible journaling. So I am totally fine with you dropping in wherever you are. But I would suggest that you have a basic knowledge of the Bible, either through like a cheat sheet of like the chronological order that the context of this story is happening, or you have a basic understanding that if you're just going to flip to Deuteronomy, you're going to read some really rough stuff. And so you're going to have no context for what's happening. So to understand that at least, well, Deuteronomy was Moses's final sermon. So I might want to figure out who Moses is. If you already know who Moses is, then that's fine to dig into here. But part of me telling you to reread the stuff that you've already read is to make sure you understand that first before you build on it. So we don't want to, you know how you are in school or in college or whatever, and they're just moving on to the next topic, the next topic, the next topic. And you're like, I didn't get the last one. So now I just feel like anything going forward, I'm just, I'm treading water over here. So the point of this is not to get as much as you can absorbed as quickly as possible. The point of it is to learn it well so that you can build upon it. So if you're confident in just moving around to different books because you've got a basic understanding of what's happening or who the character is or the context of it, yes. But if you are brand new to Bible study, I would suggest that you start with a foundation, which would mean starting with the patriarchs, starting with the basic people we're talking about in Genesis and reading that through. Or you could start in the New Testament. A lot of people recommend you start in the New Testament, start with Jesus's birth and story. Either one, there's no wrong way to do it. But for me, when Jesus references Old Testament scripture over and over and over and over, it becomes more meaningful if I've already studied that and I've already read it to know the context and what he's saying, if that makes sense. So I'm basically saying yes and no. You can study this however you want, but I guess what I'm directing you to is the goal of what you're doing. Are you wanting to just study books you haven't read just to check them off your list? Or are you wanting to study books you haven't read because you already have learned this and you want to build on it? So if that makes sense, I hope that does. But I approach this in a bajillion different ways. I approach it chronologically. I approach it by theme. So this is approaching it by just requests. So it's up to you. But honestly, whatever makes you feel alive when you're reading the Bible, that's the approach where you should really take. Because if you're feeling just like this is a chore, this is no fun, you're not really getting anything out of it anyway. So you do you. You're opening the Bible. There's no wrong way to do it. So I'm proud of you for just doing that and tackling this complex book in any way you can. So I hope that's encouraging. The call of Abraham is back in chapter 12. Then we talk about, after Abraham, he has Isaac, then Isaac in chapter 21, and then Isaac has Jacob and Esau. And then Jacob, this is just basically like reading somebody's life story of their generation. So that's why I love the book of Genesis, because it's really clear cut and it's easy to take notes on. Then Jacob has a lot in this book. And then he has Joseph. You remember Joseph and the coat of many colors? So we've got down here, we've got Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. So that's another good thing to note, is just kind of quiz yourself often. So we've got Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. And for me, I'm just going to do little things that help me remember really quickly their stories. So Adam, Garden of Eden, Noah and the flood, Abraham, he was promised that his descendants would outnumber the stars. Isaac was his son that he sacrificed to, he was going to sacrifice and the angel stopped him and they got a ram. So you could do that story. You could also do that he was given 2 twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob became the father of the Israelites, and I'm going to do, I know this is a silly illustration, but this is what I'm going to do, the 12 tribes division, because he ends up having 12 sons, and then God blesses them with the promised land, and they divide it between those 12 tribes. So this is kind of a goofy illustration. You do what you want, but Joseph is his favorite son, and he gave him the coat of many colors, and then his story of redemption is beautiful. It's the end section of Genesis. So quiz yourself as you go through and read these stories so that you can recall these things better. Also, at the top of my cheat sheets, these aren't just random doodles, that's the same thing. So creation, Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, then the flood, then or Noah's Ark, then the covenant with the rainbow, then all the descendants, the Tower of Babel, Abraham and his promised descendants, and then we've got Joseph's coat of many colors. So even this right here in my cheat sheets, everything is to help you retain this information better, recall it, memorize it, and those sorts of things. So the book of Genesis ends with Joseph forgiving his brothers for selling him into slavery, him redeeming the Israelites and not the Israelites yet, but the people that God had, or I guess it technically is the Israelites, but the Jewish people that were in famine. So all of these things came true or all these promises came true that God protected his people because of the visions that he gave Joseph. And then it ends with the death of Joseph. And then I believe it's like 400 or 500 years later, we start the book of Exodus. So there's a big break in between. And down the line, we meet Moses, who's actually a descendant of Levi, one of Joseph's brothers. So he's a Levite. And we get to read about that story. There's so much in there. I really prefer to outline one chapter. So if you have a Bible journaling request and you want a whole book, what I suggest is you grab my timelines where I've already outlined that for you. And it's got a great overview of the entire book. And then we can dig deeper into chapter notes in my Bible journaling videos to give you even more notes to add on top of these. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed that and looking through your kids' Bible study story through new eyes. And please submit your topics for next Friday. I prefer the chapter to go along with the book. So let's dig in deeper than my overviews of my timelines, and let's go chapter by chapter. So tell me what chapter is your favorite, what you're studying currently, what your group's about to study, and let me help you with that. And I will see you back here next Friday at noon Central. Bye. Thank you.